Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 311 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler. And before I get into what's going on between the two of them, I want to give you some context. Since joining the Miami Heat, guard Jimmy Butler has been one of the best postseason performers, leading the Heat to the NBA Finals in both 2020 and 2023. Every part of his game goes to another level in the postseason. For example, he's a career 32% three-point shooter. In the postseason, that number rises to 34%. He's a career 18.3 points per game. In the playoffs throughout his career, he's averaged over 21. And as a fan of the Boston Celtics, I've seen the impact that Jimmy Butler can have on the court during the playoffs. Playoff Jimmy is a real thing. And over the last 5 years, it's really felt like he was a perfect fit with the Miami Heat after calling out former teammates Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. But now there seems to be a real question about Butler's future with the Miami Heat. After only playing 60 regular season games, Butler missed the entire postseason. But that didn't stop Butler from saying this online, quote, "If I was playing, Boston would be at home. New York damn would sure be bleeping at home." And those comments did not sit well with President of Basketball Operations Pat Riley, best known for being an all-time great basketball head coach. Here's how Pat Riley responded at a press conference to Butler's remarks. Quote, "For him to say that, I thought, is that Jimmy trolling or is that Jimmy serious? If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut and your criticism of those teams." Pat Riley is an interesting figure in the history of basketball. He's known for being flashy coaching the Showtime Lakers. Then he coached the tough Knicks teams of the 90s, and he's built a real culture within the Miami Heat. The past 3 decades now, there seems to be a real generational divide between Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler, but Riley is responsible for the birth of superstars in the NBA with Magic, and then he formed the Big Three with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. It feels like Riley has a love-hate relationship with superstar players. It ended awkwardly with LeBron in Miami. Dwayne Wade eventually left for Chicago before coming back. There's another element to this story that Jimmy Butler wants a contract extension, and there's been a lot of talks as to whether the Heat should sign 34-year-old Butler to an extension. And here's my take. I would, because of what he's brought to that organization. He put them on the map again. He's fully embraced the team, and I get it. You want him to be healthy during the regular and postseason. But if you move on from him for that reason, you're just going to deal with the exact same situation with the next player you have. I mean, who are the Heat realistically going to replace Jimmy Butler with? They don't have better options. Let's say there's a scenario where Paul George agrees to join the Miami Heat. He's nowhere near the postseason player that Jimmy Butler is. Jimmy Butler has been to the NBA Finals twice with the Miami Heat in years that the Miami Heat were not predicted to make the postseason. Last year, the Heat made the NBA Finals as the number 8 seed. Paul George can't even lead a team to the conference finals in years where they are the favorites. I just think getting rid of Jimmy Butler really isn't a realistic option for the Miami Heat currently. I mean, who are going to be the face of that organization moving forward? Bam Adebayo is a really good player. I don't think he's a number 1. Tyler Hero is a good player. All he does is score the basketball. Jimmy Butler is a two-way player who elevates his game during playoff time. That's the kind of player the Miami Heat need, and that's what he's provided. Let's talk about his actual remarks. Yes, I think it's silly for him to say that the Miami Heat would have beaten the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks if he were on the court, because he wasn't on the court, and when he was on the court this season, the Miami Heat were barely a postseason team. But I will say this, if anyone can say these things, it kind of should be Jimmy Butler, because in the past, he's proven people wrong. In the past few postseasons, he's beaten the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. the two best teams in the Eastern Conference at the time. Part of me is wondering if this is a leverage play for Pat Riley to get Jimmy Butler at a more reasonable number for a contract extension, to not sign him to a full max deal. I just don't know what Pat Riley's play is right now. Is he trying to get a bigger star, bigger than Jimmy Butler, to join the Miami Heat? I mean, last offseason was all about them getting Dame Lillard, and then that didn't happen. Is there a chance that Dame Lillard somehow ends up on the Miami Heat? I don't see that happening, but Pat Riley is always seeking a superstar player. Maybe he just doesn't view Jimmy Butler as a superstar. Maybe he only views him as a star. I do get the sense that Pat Riley feels like Jimmy Butler is replaceable because he has the best head coach in all of basketball in Eric Spoelstra, and to a certain degree, I do agree with that, but Jimmy Butler is the reason the Miami Heat went to the NBA Finals twice in the last 4 years. They were not making the NBA Finals without Jimmy Butler. I feel like Pat Riley is more upset about who Jimmy Butler is during the regular season. And my point earlier was there are so many superstars who do the same thing. They miss a lot of games. Look at what the Clippers are dealing with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They can't really build a basketball team because they can't bank on the fact of their stars playing more than 55 regular season games a year. One of the things the Miami Heat should be trying to do is to get a younger star player to join them, because look at all of the teams in the postseason right now. The NBA playoffs are being run by young players. You have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with the OKC Thunder. You have Anthony Edwards with the Minnesota Timberwolves. You have Jason Tatum with the Boston Celtics. These are guys that play almost every regular season game, and now they're continuing to dominate during the regular season. The teams that are gone, the Clippers, those are the teams, and the Miami Heat as well, those are the teams that have stars that missed a significant amount of time. Put the Lakers to that list. They had times when they didn't have LeBron and they didn't have Anthony Davis, and now they're sitting at home. Joel Embiid missed significant time, and it hurt the 76ers come postseason time. The young players are dominating because they're not missing basketball games. It's that simple. So that's what the Miami Heat need. They don't need to replace Jimmy Butler. I think he should still be in the mix. He should still be one of the best players on the Miami Heat, but they need to pair him with a younger star, and maybe Bam isn't it. Maybe Tyler Hero isn't it. There is a small part of me that thinks that this is no big deal and that Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley are going to hatch things out, but it is easy to imagine, especially in today's NBA, Jimmy Butler getting himself traded to a team that will pay him. And everyone is mentioning the Philadelphia 76ers, who infamously paid Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons and let Jimmy Butler walk. But one has to wonder how good of a fit at this point in his career Jimmy Butler is for the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, Joel Embiid, like I just mentioned, missed significant time this past season, and it hurt the team during the postseason. Jimmy Butler missed significant time. Those are not the two stars you want to pair together. Yes, I love the edge that Jimmy Butler brings every night he plays basketball, but the problem being is, how many times a year is he going to be playing basketball? He missed a lot of time last year, and he missed the entire postseason run for the Miami Heat, and that's why they're sitting at home. Who's to say his health is going to improve now that he's on the Philadelphia 76ers? I do believe that Philadelphia is desperate to make a trade like this because they have like one last chance to really win something with Joel Embiid as their main star. I mean, time is running out. This guy had his MVP season. He's had his moments in the postseason, but every year seems to end the same way. I mean, we need to get this guy to an Eastern Conference Finals at least. I mean, think about it. There's a real chance here that Jalen Brunson leads the New York Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals before Joel Embiid can do it for the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, that's a team that needs a dramatic change in their roster, and the Tobias Harris deal did not work out. I like Tobias Harris. I liked him when he was playing for the Clippers and Doc Rivers. I think he's a good role player. He was never worth the max contract. And look, a big three of Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey would be really decent. They would win a lot of games, but health would be the major concern. But maybe the Philadelphia Sixers need to take that kind of risk, or Joel Embiid could be out the door soon. I mean, there's talks of maybe the Sixers should move on from Joel Embiid. The fear should be, what if Joel Embiid wants to move to a real title contending team, which right now the Philadelphia 76ers don't feel like one. What I can't imagine for Jimmy Butler is joining a young team, because it hasn't worked out in the past. Again, I mentioned this earlier on the podcast with the Minnesota Timberwolves when he was playing with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. He was calling them out constantly. Jimmy Butler needs to go to a place with players that he respects, or he's the best player on the court. That's why it's worked out with the Miami Heat, because he's been treated like the superstar player. It hasn't been Tyler Hero. It hasn't been Bam Adebayo. Jimmy Butler has been treated as though he's the face of the Miami Heat. So a situation like that would work. But if he's going to a team with a young star, that could go sideways real fast. I do think one of the most intriguing teams that could make a trade for Jimmy Butler is the San Antonio Spurs. Now, they have a young star in Victor Wembanyama, and Jimmy Butler makes a lot of sense. I mean, Greg Popovich would be a coach that he respects. Maybe he could help with the development of Victor Wembanyama, but he could also call him out like he once called out Karl Anthony Towns. Like, I would be a little wary if I were the San Antonio Spurs, but I would be intrigued, because what do the Spurs have going for them? They need to pair Wembanyama with a superstar veteran player, and Jimmy Butler makes a lot of sense to me. He brings instant credibility to wherever he goes. He's gone to the postseason with every team he's been on. The Chicago Bulls, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Miami Heat, a team he's been to the NBA Finals with 2 times in his career. The problem with Butler is you would have to give him the money, and sometimes trading for these veteran players don't always work out. I mean, just ask the Phoenix Suns. They thought bringing in Bradley Beal was going to change everything. Pair him with Durant and Devin Booker, and that hasn't worked out. Now, I think Jimmy Butler is a better player than Bradley Beal and has had more postseason success, but I could see a scenario where Jimmy Butler goes to a team and it doesn't work out. I think, truthfully, Jimmy Butler wants to remain a member of the Miami Heat. He loves the situation he's in, where he is that superstar player, and he is inarguably the best player on the Miami Heat. He doesn't want to be Robin to anyone's Batman. He loves the fact that we call him Playoff Jimmy. He loves the fact that they can be down and out during the regular season, and then come postseason time, he can act like he's Superman. I think he loves every minute of it, and he loves telling people they're going to come back and win playoff series. He's loving every minute of being the best player on the Miami Heat. So that's why, if I had to predict, I would predict that Jimmy Butler remains a member of the Miami Heat, mostly because Pat Riley doesn't have any better options. Again, I can mention the names. Is he going to want to bring in Paul George? Absolutely not. James Harden's not going to happen. Who would want James Harden at this point anyway? Dame Lillard isn't going to join the Miami Heat anytime soon. I do feel like I bring up this name every time I talk about a potential guy joining a new team. Trae Young would be a nice get if you were the Miami Heat, and pairing Trae Young with Jimmy Butler makes a lot of sense to me. Trae Young is a better version of Tyler Hero. He is a star player. He is what Tyler Hero is aspiring to be. A Miami Big Three of Butler, Bam, and Trae Young would be exciting, and it would put Miami back in the mix of being an Eastern Conference Finals contending team. One of the things that interests me the most about all of this is, who are the Miami Heat fans siding with? Are they siding with Pat Riley, who's turned this basketball team into a legitimate operation, or are they siding with Jimmy Butler, who has again led them to 2 NBA Finals appearances? I would say that the Miami Heat fans have blind faith faith in Pat Riley, that whatever Pat Riley decides to do, it's going to work out. And I can't blame them. I mean, look at his history with the franchise. He brings in Alonzo Mourning, turns him into one of the best centers in the NBA. Then you have the Dwayne Wade Shaq era where the team wins their first NBA Finals. And then he gets LeBron and Chris Bosh to pair with Dwayne Wade. And then after that, the Heat have a few shaky seasons, but then he gets Jimmy Butler to join the team and they become legitimate once again. I mean, there have been so many eras during Pat Riley's tenure with the Miami Heat that maybe they would have a down season if they let Jimmy Butler go right now, but you believe that he would be able to build them back up because he's made all of the right moves, he's picked the right coach, and let's be honest, Miami is a market in a city where superstar players want to be. They also have that culture. They've been winning. Overall, I think this past season was a weird one for the Miami Heat because it felt like a wash after they didn't get Dame Lillard. There was just a strange feeling around the team, and then Jimmy Butler missed time during the regular season. Bam is a really good player. I just don't want him to be a number one option. Tyler Hero, I mean, he's been in every single trade rumor you can imagine, so I don't really know what his future with the team looks like. I just don't know where the team is headed, and now you add all of the Jimmy Butler talk. I mean, there is a real scenario where Jimmy Butler is not on this team come next regular season. And for as much as he's probably loved his time with the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler is definitely the kind of player who would demand a trade. I mean, he did it with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He went on TV, on ESPN with Rachel Nichols and said that he wanted out of there. And then he was quickly in Philadelphia on a new team. This could be that same situation playing itself out again. And once again, it would come down to his contract. I mean, Jimmy Butler clearly views himself as a superstar player in the NBA. And it's tough to argue with a guy who's been the sole star player on two teams that made it all the way to the NBA Finals. I mean, that's something that's really in Jimmy Butler's favor, is that he's been a star player who's won on his own. He hasn't been paired with megastars since Joel Embiid. He's been the guy for the Miami Heat, and he's led them to 2 appearances in the NBA Finals, and both times he lost, the Heat were not the favorites. I mean, nobody dissed the Miami Heat for losing to LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and nobody dissed them last season when they lost to Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. I mean, he lost to superior basketball teams. The Miami Heat were thought of as a Cinderella story both times they made the NBA Finals, led by Jimmy Butler. For better or worse, this is what you get with Jimmy Butler. He's vocal. He's not going to be silent. He likes to talk. That's what he does. He brings that to your team, but he also brings the winning. I think the guy is a legitimate winner, and I get it. He hasn't won an NBA Finals yet, so it's weird to call him that, but he is a real winner. He hits clutch shots. He's not afraid to take a game winner and miss a game winner. I just think that the guy has that it factor, and he's proven a lot of people wrong. Some people called him overrated in Chicago. Then they were done with him in Minnesota, and then he really became his best self with the Miami Heat. So in a weird way, I'm kind of rooting for him to remain a member of the Miami Heat because I love everything he's done with that team. Even though he's been my team twice in the Eastern Conference Finals, I still like Jimmy Butler as a player, and I still want to see him as a member of the Miami Heat because I think it's the team he's going to be remembered for the most. I want to see him play out the rest of his career with the Miami Heat. I do believe that Jimmy Butler is a potential Hall of Fame player. He might already be one in my eyes. He's had a lot of success in the game of basketball. Does he maybe talk too much? Should he have not said he would have beaten the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks? Absolutely. But I would take that for what Jimmy Butler can bring to a basketball team because he's going to be motivated. The guy cares about winning. Will he miss maybe more games than I want him to? Yes, but for the near future, I am still buying in on Jimmy Butler. And I also like the idea of him being the best player on a basketball team. I don't want him to be anyone's Robin. I like the idea of Jimmy Butler going one-on-one against these teams that have other superstars paired together. I think that's something that the NBA needs more of. I loved it when Dirk beat the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals, and Jimmy Butler has that same sort of thing where he goes up against teams that have multiple star players. I mean, Jimmy Butler last season beat the Boston Celtics that had both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and he did it alone. Yes, he had other players from the Miami Heat, but the one star was Jimmy Butler. Everyone who follows the NBA should care about what happens with Jimmy Butler, because whether he stays with the Miami Heat or leaves, it's going to be a big deal. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.